If someone were to ask you, what do you know about Nevada? What would you say? Las Vegas and the Strip? Gambling? Aliens from Area 51? Either way, most things you say will be in this bottom corner of the state. Even if we ignore the tourists, most people in Nevada live within these two circles. These circles contain both Reno and Las Vegas. Combined, these circles make up about 2.9 out of Nevada's 3.14 million people. It's almost 93% of the population and just 3% of the land area. But why is the other 97% so sparse? Before we look into that, let's clarify our population numbers a bit. Instead of just counting the circles, we'll look at it by the county level for more clear-cut population numbers. We'll just be looking at the orange area for the quote-unquote sparse area. The whole county's added into the population. We add about 45,000 people to the population outside of the area. Towns like Mesquite and Friendly now outside of the sparse area. This leaves just 185,000 people in the rest of the state. This is less than 6% of the population. If this area was its own city, it'd be the 139th biggest city in the US between two suburbs in the Sun Belt. Let's also look at land area. Central Nevada has a land area of 93,000 square miles, which is bigger than the 10 smallest states combined, which only has 83,000 square miles. And if it was its own state, it'd be the 11th largest state just after Oregon. Looking at population again, let's compare to Wyoming. The state we normally see as unpopulated and sparse, it still has over 3 times as many people as Central Nevada for just slightly more land area. But now let's look into these 185,000 people. Where do they live? The largest city is Pahrump in the south corner with 42,000 people. Next is Elko in the northern part of the state with 20,000 people. Third is Spring Creek with 15,000, but it's right next to Elko. We're also not counting it since it's basically just unincorporated Elko. We add the population to Elko, so now it's at 35,000 people. The final city in the western part of the state is Fallon with 9,000 people. Combined, these cities have 86,000 people, which is about the population of Duluth, Minnesota. But we've had enough of numbers, let's take a closer look at the region. We're going to view both towns and unpopulated areas. But first with towns. I-80 goes through the northern part of the state and has a large concentration of towns along it. The image from earlier is from one of the I-80 towns, Winnemucca. However, we're going to look at Lovelock first. Lovelock has McDonald's, but not a Walmart. In population of 1,850, it's the second smallest town we'll look at along I-80. It's also the county seat of Pershing County. Like the rest of the towns along I-80 corridor, it has a strong dependence on traffic from I-80 to support the economy, also has a presence in mining and agriculture. Next up is Winnemucca. It has both Walmart and McDonald's, as well as the place US 95 goes north towards Boise. At a population of 8,600, it's the second largest city along I-80 in central Nevada and the fourth largest city overall in central Nevada. It's also the county seat for Humboldt County. Now we're moving on to Battle Mountain. Cool name, by the way. Battle Mountain, like most towns we'll look at, has a McDonald's but not a Walmart. It has a population of 3,900 and it's the county seat of Lander County. Next is Carlin, which doesn't have a McDonald's or a Walmart. Its population is 2,050 and it's near the Eureka County border in Elko County. Now we're at Elko, the most populous city for 140 miles in any direction. It's not only big enough for both McDonald's and Walmart, it has 2 McDonald's. Including Spring Creek, it has a population of 35,100. It also served as one of the most important stops along the Transcontinental Railroad. It still has a dependence on trains today. It is the county seat for the aptly named Elko County. But next we're on to Wells, our second to last I-80 town. Again, it has a McDonald's but not a Walmart. It's the smallest town we'll look at in this video with only 1,250 people, is where US 93 crosses I-80. But now we're moving on to West Wendover, which as you can guess is west of Wendover. It's another town with a McDonald's but no Walmart, and has a population of 4,500. Unlike other I-80 towns, West Wendover is almost exclusively gambling based, serving visitors from the Salt Lake area. Despite I-80 being the lifeline for these communities, it's not why they started. All the towns except West Wendover are along the Humboldt River. The arrows on the map now indicate what side the downtown is along the Humboldt River. It's also important that Wells, one of the towns we just looked at, got its name from Humboldt Wells, the hot spring that is the origin for the Humboldt River. But now we're moving on from I-80, now venturing into towns that are truly in the middle of nowhere. All the towns we'll look at will be south of I-80, since north of I-80 is practical wilderness. Now let's look along towns on US 50, nicknamed the loneliest highway in America, even though most of the state looks like this. The two towns we'll look at are Fallon and Ely. Both towns have McDonald's, but only Fallon has the Walmart. Fallon has a population of 9,300 versus 4,000 in Ely. Both towns are county seats, Fallon being the Churchill County seat and Ely being the White Pine County seat. However, we can't forget about north-south routes starting with US 95. There's another side-by-side comparison we're going to do between Tonopah and Hawthorne. Neither town has Walmart, but only Hawthorne has McDonald's. Hawthorne is at 2,700 people, with Tonopah only having 2,200 people. Once again, they're both county seats, Hawthorne being Mineral County seat and Tonopah being Nye County seat. Now, none of the towns here are big enough to really have their own comparison, but Caliente is the biggest of the cities with about 1,100 people, and Pioche is the county seat of Lincoln County with about 1,000. Not surprisingly, none of the towns have either a McDonald's or a Walmart. Now we're on to the big boy of Pahrump. Despite having 10,000 more people than Elko, there's only one McDonald's. There's also a Walmart for the 45,000 people that live here. It's also important to note that Pahrump contains almost a quarter of the population of central Nevada. It's also the only city not along a major highway in central Nevada, so most of the businesses are not sustained by through travels, but instead by the population that lives there. In recent years, it has seen an exorbitant growth from Vegas for people looking for cheaper houses that are close to the valley. But now let's take a zoom out and look at the entire map. This is a map of all of the highways in the region, and as you can see, every town except for Pahrump is a long one. So besides Pahrump, which is feeded by Vegas suburbs, why can't the city survive alone without a highway? There are two reasons. Geography, which also includes the climate, as well as Uncle Sam. First, let's look at geography. Central Nevada is part of the Great Basin, and in the Great Basin are long north to south mountain chains. The mountain chains force cities to settle in the valleys, and most of the valleys are pretty narrow, prohibiting large cities from growing like Las Vegas. Las Vegas is in one of the largest valleys in Nevada. There's also very little water in the region, which is why there are a lot of cities along the Humboldt River in the north. Now let's look at Uncle Sam's involvement in this. This map sums it up pretty well. This is 16% of Nevada's land highlighted, which is all the private land in Nevada. That's not a lot. The rest is either owned by state or Uncle Sam himself. There are 3 areas where there is an abundance of private land. The 2 circles, as we already know, are Reno and Las Vegas. But why aren't there any big cities in this area, which is even larger than Reno and Las Vegas? Again, 2 things. Mining and ranching. Both of those take large amounts of land, so there's not much room left for large cities. But now we need to answer a question. Why does the government own so much land? It might help if we explain which agency owns what land. This is the federal land, which doesn't include land owned by the state, which is why some areas aren't included in either map. The vast majority of the land highlighted in yellow is owned by the Bureau of Land Management. This agency, in short, is tasked with preserving landscapes for future economic purposes. Next, we'll look at the National Forest Agency. This agency owns most of the tall mountains in Nevada, though it's important to note that Wheeler Peak, the second tallest mountain in the state, is part of the Great Basin National Park, separate from the Forest Agency. It's also a small part of Death Valley National Park in the southwest of the state near Pahrump. The last agency we'll talk about is the Department of Defense. They own the Nevada Test and Training Range, a huge swath of land northwest of Vegas. It's the biggest piece of land the military owns in the entire country, just ahead of the Goldwater Bombing Range in Arizona. Area 51 is part of the training range, and it's also famous for being the place the US tested nuclear bombs. Now let's combine all of the reasons together to look at why nobody lives here. Starting with, there's no land for people to live on. There's no water to sustain farms or large cities, and there's only a few highways for towns to establish on that can sustain their businesses. With all those reasons combined, that's why the interior of Nevada has so little people. Welcome to the end screen. 99% of subscribers have never been stormed by aliens, so for protection from aliens, subscribe. While you're busy watching the aliens get deleted, you might as well watch this video too.